When somebody brings up the topic of character deaths in She-Ra, who comes to your mind first? Chances are that it's either Angela, Shadow Weaver, or both at the same time. And that makes plenty of sense. Angela's quote-unquote death was a very dramatic closer to Season 3 that had lasting effects throughout the last 2 seasons, and Shadow Weaver's death was also very impactful for a number of reasons that I won't go into because I already talked about them in my video on her death. There were other deaths in the show, however. Mara's death was before the events of the show, but it still had lasting effects. Horde Prime's actual death scene at the end of Season 5 was pretty meh, but the death of his physical body was a great redemption of sorts for Hordak. This video is not about any of those scenes, however. This video is about the death scene that was more impactful to me than even Angela or Shadow Weaver's fates. I am of course talking about Light Hope's death at the end of Season 4. For those of you who may not have watched the scene in a while or whatever, here's a quick recap. Because of Glimmer's awful decision-making skills and Shadow Weaver's manipulation, Adora ends up in a situation where if she fully lifts the sword above her head, basically the entire world would end. She obviously doesn't want that to happen, but Light Hope is forcefully moving her hands like a puppet to try to lift the sword. Adora, however, has the power to become, a super powerful 8-foot-tall warrior, so it's kind of like when an unstoppable force hits an immovable object, and it's just one big tug of war for a while. However, through all of this, Light Hope is having an internal battle of morals because she's programmed to do this awful thing, but she also really loved Mara, and that has been confirmed by the creator Noelle Stevenson. Mara sacrificed herself so none of this would happen, and Light Hope really cared about Mara, so you can see how that kind of complicates her feelings on the dilemma. In the end, Light Hope lets go of her control, and Adora shatters the sword, saving Etheria from being obliterated. After that, Light Hope's form starts glitching, because the Heart of Etheria project was no longer really a thing that could happen. She says her final words,
"Thank you,"
and then fizzles out of existence. Now that everybody is caught up, let's talk about why I think her death might be so ignored by the fandom. The first reason why I think Light Hope's death is often brushed over is because her death didn't really have any lasting effects. With Mara, her death played a major role throughout the entire series. Angela's quote-unquote death had major effect on the rest of the series. Shadow Weaver's death didn't have many effects since it was in the last episode, but it was also very significant because of her last words and the fact that we finally saw her face, so it still sticks with you. Even Horde Prime's actual death was significant. Sure, it fell kind of flat, but he was a very major character. Light Hope's death didn't really have any lasting effects though. This is probably because neither Adora nor the rest of the Rebellion really saw her as more than an evil hologram, so it's not like the characters were gonna need to mourn over her death all that much. The only person who ever had a deep connection to Light Hope was Mara, and Mara's dead. The next reason is the timing. Light Hope died right after Adora shattered the sword, which is a much more significant plot point. So when people think back on that scene, it's much more likely that they'll think about the death of the sword rather than the death of Light Hope. The broken sword had much more of a lasting effect throughout the rest of the show because without it, Adora could no longer turn into She-Ra, at least not in the way that she had been for the entire series. Anyways, now that we've gone over why it's pretty ignored, let's talk about why, personally, Light Hope's death hit me harder than all the other deaths. The first reason why it impacted me so much is actually because no one talks about it. I saw a lot of spoilers before and during my watching of the show, so I had heard some talk about Angela and Shadow Weaver's deaths. However, because no one really talks about Light Hope's death, I wasn't prepared for it. Another reason is the timing and the circumstances of it. Shadow Weaver and Horde Prime died at the end of Season 5, so there wasn't much after their deaths. However, Angela had plenty of time afterwards, but she also didn't actually die. According to what Entrapta had said earlier in that episode, whoever went into the portal would be trapped, but not necessarily dead. And they never say she's dead. In the episode, first episode of Season 4, they imply it, but they never say the word dead. They always say gone or whatever, stuff like that.
What with Angela being gone?
But now with her absence,
It would mean admitting that she's really gone.
And on the topic of Angela being trapped, for me personally, that wasn't even the saddest scene in the episode. The part where Entrapta just faded away actually hit me way more. Am I a bad person? Y'all decide.
No!
You need to remove the sword from the inside. It's powering the portal. As soon as it's gone, everything will be right again. It was nice being friends with you.
Entrapta!
Light Hope, however, was actually dead. She wasn't trapped. She was just gone from existence. And she never came back in season 5. And you gotta keep in mind, I didn't particularly like Angela or Light Hope. Shadow Weaver was very well written, but also a manipulative monster. So it's not even like I just liked Light Hope more than either of them, and that's why her deck was more sad. Just something about her finally having clarity on her opinions and stuff, and then immediately dying is heartbreaking. It reminds me of this scene, kind of, from King of the Hill.
Oh my god. I can suddenly think clearly. The voices have left my head. What am I doing in a pig costume? Uh-oh.
At least Trip seemed happy. And now he's in a better place.
honey, Trip had a mental breakdown and is now a sausage. That's not a better place.
Also, her deck was much more calm compared to Angela and Shadow Weaver. They both had these big cinematic decks paired with dramatic music and some world-saving sacrifice that could have, everyone would have died and all this wild stuff. Light Hope sacrificed herself to allow Adora to break the sword, but the bigger cinematic sacrifice was the sword. The temporary deck of She-Ra, that was the sacrifice. Light Hope just let go of control. Not to mention the fact that her final words were also very heartbreaking. Let's talk about that. She-Ra was very good at last words. Angela, Light Hope, and Shadow Weaver all had some pretty short and simple last words, and yet they were very impactful. Similar to how Steven Universe had some very short, simple lines that still managed to be incredibly sad when you reflect on them.
Well, I think you're pretty great.
I've felt worse.
How did you stop hurting? I didn't.
With Angela, her last words were,
Take care of each other.
which is already sad because you know that she will likely never see her daughter again, but also sad when you think about how negative Adora and Glimmer's friendship became in season 4. Shadow Weaver's last lines were,
I'm so proud of you, Katra. You're welcome.
both of which I've already analyzed in my other video, but to quickly summarize it, was still manipulative, but also the nicest thing she ever said to Katra. Light Hope's last words were simply,
Thank you.
not manipulative and not a depressing indirect goodbye to her daughter, just a simple thank you to Adora for helping Light Hope find some clarity. Shadow Weaver said you're welcome, implying that her deck was some grand favor despite her only doing it because of circumstances. Light Hope just showed some appreciation and then immediately died. Something about that is really sad to me. Anyways, let's wrap this up. In conclusion, Light Hope's deck is often brushed over, likely due to it being overshadowed by the sword breaking and the big cinematic deaths of Angela and Shadow Weaver. To me, it was the most sad because she finally got some clarity on what her values were and immediately faded from existence, never to be spoken of or even seen again. I hope you liked this video. Goodbye. Hello, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You know, I'm not gonna push your hand. I want to know y'all's feedback. Also, leave comments if y'all have different opinions on anything I said. I'm genuinely curious. I've been getting really into the Owl House. I watched through the whole first season because that's all that's out right now. So you might see some Owl House videos in the future. Anyways, I really do hope you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, that's also fine. Just just gotta throw it out there. Any feedback is appreciated, positive or negative. If it's negative, particularly constructive negative feedback is better, but you know what? It's fine. I just am curious how y'all feel about it. If you want to see more videos like this, or animated series I've been making, or just anything else from me, if you want to hear my voice more, you can subscribe if you want, and turn the bell on. It helps me out, but you know, do what you want. Again, not gonna force your hand. Goodbye, farewell, adios, other way you say goodbye, goodbye.